Hello, and welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm going to be recapping the Splatterpunk book, Maniacs With Knives 2. Much like the first book in the series, this book is told with multiple storylines going on at the same time. So to simplify this, I tried to reorganize them so it's a bit easier to follow. And this video is probably going to be pretty long, so I'll cut the intro off short here, and I'll just get right into the recap now. Part 1. Maxine. We begin with the former victim and sole survivor of the massacre from the last book, named Maxine, as she recounts her kidnapping and torture at the hands of a serial killer and his partner. After she escaped the scene, she had written a book called The Pleasant Ridge Street Massacre. It became a New York Times bestseller. The only problem was, it was mostly filled with lies. It painted the last story's main protagonist, Kim, as a villain, and it implicated her in torture and killings she didn't actually commit. Maxine also didn't actually write this book herself. A ghostwriter wrote it for her. One day, during an autograph signing, Kim's sister Jamie approached Maxine with a copy of her book. She then pulled out a knife from this hollowed-out book she hid her blade in, and stabbed Maxine to death for killing her sister and smearing her name when she couldn't defend herself. Part 2. Kendra and Jamie. Next, we see two women known as Kendra and Jamie. Kendra is essentially acting as a hooker at a motel. Her friend Jamie is acting as her pimp. She lines up clients for her. We see a man in a suit come knock on the door, and as the client enters, Jamie had put pressure on Kendra to potentially let him go further than she does with most clients because she believes this man is quite rich. The man gets inside but realizes that he forgot a condom and pauses. Kendra says she has protection and tells him to come closer. She then stabs the man to death with a switchblade. Jamie comes back with an ice pick and a hammer and turns the man's face into a bloody crater, then instructs Kendra to take off her panties and get on top of his face and to ride the corpse's face and pretend it was her. Jamie then uses the ice pick to impale the man's dick without piercing the tip, and the couple proceed to have a threesome with the corpse, and when they finish, a man's voice from the neighboring room tells them to keep it down, causing them to laugh. Later, housekeeping tries to enter and gets the door open just a bit before Jamie slams her body against it to keep it closed. The two then decide to clean up and have some fun in the shower together. We get a few details during the scene about their past crimes. They kill in motels and on the road. Some examples of their killings are: in Kentucky, they picked up a hitchhiker and sawed off his hand for Jamie to use his bloody stump as a dildo to masturbate with. A couple in Alabama, who they forced the wife to bite the head off the husband's dick, then forced the husband to kill her in return. After this, Kendra and Jamie would kill the husband, then 69 on top of the two corpses. And lastly, a teenage runaway they met in a motel in Ohio who wanted a place to stay for the night, but would leave in a body bag after Jamie made a makeshift strap-on out of a harness and knife, and then face-fucked the poor girl to death with the blade. Kendra asks Jamie if she can stay one more night, and Jamie agrees, but they need to get a do not disturb sign as soon as possible, especially considering they wrote the words, "The Janus girls were here," with blood from a dead victim on the wall of the room. Jamie and Kendra struggle to find their next victim, until Kendra sees a room key belonging to the neighbor that banged on their wall earlier in the story. The man was currently out of his room, and they plan to sneak in, hide, then knock him out and have their fun with him. They grab their gear bag that supposedly originally belonged to the Bay River slasher from the first story. This bag allegedly went missing from the police's evidence locker, and now belonged to the Janus girls. They enter the room to find the man had a wife and a child. It's completely dark inside, and the wife and kid are oblivious to what's about to happen next. Jamie gives Kendra a knife and tells her to go get the kid, and she'll take care of the wife. Jamie kills the wife easily, but Kendra struggles to get the nerve to actually kill the child. Jamie has no problem with targeting a child though, and does it for her. They then hear the man, named John, enter the room. He turns on the lights, and rather than being horrified at the corpses of his child and wife, he instead thanks God, saying he is happy to be free from them now. He taunts the corpse of his wife and child, then asks God what to do. He then announces to the room, out loud, he left the room before, and when he returned, his family is dead, so he'll leave the room again to see what should happen next, whenever he returns, expecting a sign from God. After he leaves, Jamie says they need to get out of there, but Kendra says she wants to mess with the guy. Kendra then investigates this man's address book and finds his brother lives somewhat close by. So with the blood of the wife, Kendra circles passages in the Bible that she found in a drawer of the hotel room. The verses were about the story of Cain and Abel, hoping to possibly manipulate this man known as John to kill his brother. Surprisingly, this actually works, and John takes the Bible and pays for a full week's stay at the motel and says he'd like to not be disturbed. Then he goes on a road trip to kill his brother. He does give his brother a heads up that he's coming, not to kill him but to visit, because he doesn't want to be rude. Kendra follows John's car, but Jamie decides that she wants to mess around as Kendra's trying to drive, and they end up swerving off the road and blowing out multiple tires on their car. Jamie goes to reach into the glove box to get the address, but she finds a bottle of pills. It's not specifically stated right here, but the medication she finds is actually used for schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. We then cut to John, who visits his brother David. His niece and nephew, Craig and Amy, David's children, come to greet him and are excited to see their uncle. John learns that David recently divorced his wife, and it's his turn to have the kids for the weekend, and John lies, saying he's also going through the same thing. Meanwhile, Kendra and Jamie try their luck at hitchhiking, since the car is undrivable, and they get picked up by a truck driver. The truck driver was a black man named Wendell. He has a muscular build and wears a straw hat. Wendell wastes no time at all before sexually assaulting Kendra and is promptly stabbed to death by her. They end up almost crashing again and are unfortunately stuck once again, this time because they don't know how to drive a stick shift. Kendra takes the man's straw hat, and the girls decide to search the back of the truck to see what the man was hauling. What they find is a bunch of different sex toys. The girls fill every orifice of the trucker's corpse with functioning vibrators, and make a few more holes on his body to stick more in for good measure. They set up a display of this corpse, and a sedan drives by and stops to look at it. The driver gets out, then starts puking, and is jumped by the girls, who got him with a hammer. They then take a rope of anal beads that they attached razor blades to and put around the man's neck. The two girls then jump on his back and mimic riding a bull, while pulling the razor-covered anal beads tighter and tighter around his neck until he dies. They then steal his sedan, but before they pull away from the scene, they hear a baby crying in the back of the car. They debate what to do with the kid, and as they search the car, they find a 9mm handgun. They plan to rob a convenience store and get gas since the car was almost empty, and while doing this, they planned on abandoning the baby at the station. But when Jamie goes in with the gun and the baby in a car seat, an older man talks to her and seems sympathetic and says he understands what it's like to barely have any money and be a single parent on top of that. This distracts Jamie, and the store clerk puts the barrel of a shotgun up to her head. She looks at Kendra, who then grabs the travel bag and makes a run for it, leaving Jamie to her fate. Unfortunately for Kendra, Jamie has the car keys, so Kendra is actually on foot here. Jamie, still having her gun drawn on the old man, decides to shoot him, hoping the man with the shotgun would be too timid to shoot her. She kills the old man, then she whips around and shoots the clerk right between the eyes and kills him. The shotgun goes off, but doesn't hit Jamie. The baby cries from all the commotion. Jamie then unloads the rest of the magazine into the pink car seat and vows to come for Kendra. Back to John at his brother David's house. David's ex-wife Sarah shows up to pick up the kids and sees a bloody mess. She tries to use her cell phone to call for help, but it's knocked out of her hand by John, who tells her David had an accident. She goes to run, but slips on a bloody tile and knocks herself out, and as her vision fades, her last thoughts are about her children, wondering where they are and if they were safe. When she wakes up, John tells Sarah, who is now in the passenger seat of John's car, with duct tape all around her wrist, all about what happened. He also says he was always into her, and now that both of their partners were dead and the kids were gone, it must be another sign. He says now they can be together. He does say they should find a church so he can confess her sin of getting a divorce, but after that, they will be free to be together. Back to Kendra, she tries hitchhiking again, and she sees the car that she stole stop in front of her. The book says that they actually made a plan in the past that if one was about to get caught, the other should run and escape, if they could. And Jamie even said before there was no sense in both of them getting locked away in prison. But right now, Jamie is pissed and presses the gun to Kendra's head, and explains she took the two men out and that Kendra shouldn't have given up on her so easily. She makes Kendra take one of the pills from earlier, but Kendra only pretends to take it and throws it in the grass when Jamie's not looking. When they continue their journey to John's brother's place, Kendra asks Jamie what happened to the baby, and Jamie lies and says the panic button was hit and cops will be there soon to take care of it, and this relieves Kendra greatly. Now Jamie and Kendra approach John's brother's house and speculate on how he killed his brother. They decide to take credit for the murder to themselves, because, as they put it, to them, John was like a wind-up toy. They wound him up and sent him off on a killing spree. So the Janus girls should get credit for this kill. They enter and search the house and find blood but no bodies. Then Kendra sees pictures of children belonging to John's brother, and she has a breakdown now, realizing that the man they manipulated didn't just kill his brother but also killed children as well. Jamie tries to comfort her, and Kendra tells her that she doesn't want to be in charge anymore and shouldn't have picked John as a victim. Jamie agrees to search the house, and to calm Kendra down, says that they haven't found a body yet, and the kids might have been at a friend's house or staying at a family member's place, so they might not even be dead. She searches upstairs, hoping to find the whole family dead so she can go back to being in charge and having put Jamie in her place, since the kids were probably dead, and it was thanks to her idea. She finds a body wrapped in bloody tarp and smiles, but then she hears the words, "Help us," and turns to see a little boy and girl tied up with makeshift gags in their mouth. The boy had enough of his gags spit out, so he could try to call for help. Jamie decides to kill them herself, but Kendrick comes up and sees this, and confronts her about it after it's done. She then pulls the gun from earlier and points it at Jamie. She pulls the trigger 3 times, but Jamie says that she emptied the clip when she killed the baby at the gas station. She then reveals that she still has all of her knives. Jamie rushes towards Kendra and is hit in the face with a gun when Kendra throws it. Kendra then grabs the knife and just barely misses, stabbing Jamie as Jamie rolls over the body of John's now dead nephew. She tries to open the bag containing all the knives, but the zipper is jammed. It looks like Kendra is about to kill her, but all of a sudden Kendra doesn't feel right, and that's when Jamie reveals that she drugged Kendra's drink at the last rest stop, and they might be kicking in now. The two fight, but Kendra is weakened. She tries stabbing Jamie, but Jamie blocks it using the knife bag a few times. And finally, the two fall down the steps and the bag spills open. The two girls, as the book puts it, are then turned into human pincushions as they come down hard on the blades. Kendra sees Jamie and sees she's not moving, so Kendra starts taking the blades out that were stuck in her from the fall. As she does this, Jamie sneaks up on her and puts a blade to her throat. Kendra ends up feeling dizzy and passing out. When she opens her eyes, she finds a phone and tries to call 911, but can't speak when she tries to. Then in a mirror, she sees a woman she didn't recognize. Part 3. Jeff and Ron. Jeff and his girlfriend Terry were going to go on a double date with another couple, Cassandra, also known as Cass, and Todd. Jeff's weird friend Ron invites himself, and Jeff doesn't actually have the heart to tell him no, so he lets him basically be the fifth wheel for this trip. Terry volunteers Ron to set up her and Jeff's tent for them, and as Terry and Jeff walk away, it's revealed that another couple is watching them from a distance. Later on, Ron suggests that the group make s'mores. Cass and Todd begin making out. Ron watches them, which creeps out Terry a good bit. This would cause Jeff to suggest they retire to their tents and call it a night. Ron said he'd stay up to watch the fire and wanted to relax, and the others went to their tents. He waited a bit and then snuck over to Todd and Cassandra's tent and looked through a hole he had cut in it earlier, when the others were unaware. He then drops his pants. Jeff would go to look for Ron a bit later, but would see his tent flap was left open, and he was not inside. Jeff thinks maybe he just got up to pee, but then he hears what he thinks is Ron and turns around. But he's greeted by a 7-foot-tall man with overalls and no shirt or shoes. He tried to scream out to warn his girlfriend until a damp rag covers his mouth and knocks him out. Terry, meanwhile, is in the comedically bad position of being blindfolded, along with wearing handcuffs and some sexy clothes. She's waiting for Jeff to get back. Unfortunately, the giant man enters the tent, and I'm sure you can see where this is going. He then takes advantage of Terry in her bondage, and he rapes her. Back to Ron, who is jerking off now, watching Cass and Todd have sex. He then witnesses a knife cutting into their tent, and multiple freaks show up and kidnap Todd and Cass. Ron runs back to his campsite to warn Jeff, but he sees the fire is extinguished and the tents were cut up, and he realizes, rather than being the fifth wheel now, he's the only one left. He grabs the keys from Jeff's tent, and was going to drive off and abandon all of his friends, but he sees that the car has been completely destroyed by the captors, and he has no way of getting it started because the engine was completely dismantled and all the tires were slashed. He decided to track down the captors and finds a 2-story house that he believes that Jeff and the others were taken to. We cut back to Jeff, who was woken up with a stomp on his stomach, and this is where we meet the family. The family of captors is a 7-foot-tall man, like I said from earlier, with a comedically tiny head that goes by Pinhead, an older man with a scraggly beard who goes by Papa, a morbidly obese woman that the others call Mama, a teenage girl with half her face covered with her hair named Liz, and a tall, skinny man named Bones. Later on, a little girl named Lulu Bell would also come in. Anyway, Pinhead steps up to go after Todd, who pushes him in return. But this barely phases the giant. Cass tries to help, but is hit hard with an elbow. Pinhead then grabs a hold of Todd and drags him away. Bones takes Cass, Liz takes Terry, and Papa says he's stuck with Jeff. And as he takes his knife from his belt, he says he hopes Jeff's a screamer. As Pinhead tries to drag Todd away, the only real word that he said so far is meat. He takes him to a room filled with potential weapons, like meat hooks that hang from the ceiling, and Todd manages to grab a knife. He stabs Pinhead's hand when he tried to grab him, but Pinhead doesn't react. He just keeps coming after him. The fight would end with Todd impaled on a meat hook, and Pinhead would start cutting him up while he was still alive. Todd watches as the giant then begins to eat the flesh that was cut off before he passes out. Liz now has Terry and actually tries talking with her, but Terry makes it clear she doesn't want to talk. Liz taunts her and says the man she was with was pretty attractive, and says she could have tied him up and had her way with him. This causes Terry to scream for her to shut up. Liz tells her she was just joking and mainly just wanted a friend. She proceeds to say that Jeff might survive with Papa. Bones is going to have his way with the other girl. She then looks at Terry and says that she's very lucky her tits were smaller than Cass's. As for Todd, Pinhead would prepare him for later. Liz uncovers the side of her face with her hair, and it looks as if half of her skin on her face has been ripped off, and this is why she usually covers it with her hair. Over in Bones' room, he put Cassandra over a table and trapped her wrist in vices that were extremely tight and kept her in place for what was about to come next. He would begin fucking her doggy style and give her a tramp stamp of his name using a soldering iron, and force her to say that she belonged to him now. He then pulled out of her and finished on the brand he gave her, and as he came, he said, "You're damn right you are." At this point in the book, it is revealed that Ron was outside watching this happen. He was jerking off and finished around the same time that Bones did. He also wished that he was the one inside with Cass right now. The little girl, Lulu Bell, is not feeling well. The older woman, referred to as Mama, feels her bald, misshapen head and says she feels warm and tells her she should stay home with Liz tonight. It isn't said what she's staying home from, but this is later revealed to be a church service. Lulu picks up the ball she and Mama was playing with and notices that the stitching is coming undone. She makes a mental note to ask Papa to fix it. The book says every time they get new guest, Papa adds to the ball. I'm sure you can put 2 and 2 together what that means. Papa then makes Jeff attach a shackle hooked to the floor around his ankle. He explains Jeff the history of this mansion. At one point it was a slave plantation. There was an uprising and the family living there was slaughtered. After that, the government took it over and made it a tuberculosis hospital, which pretty much meant it was actually just a prison for the sick. No patient left. They all went there to die. They were then cremated in the basement. Eventually, a fire broke out, and the bars on the windows prevented escape. This added even more bodies to the growing number of deaths that occurred in this house. The house was then gutted and rebuilt and converted to a mental asylum. More deaths would occur here when patients would rise up and slaughter their caretakers. He then explains that his family lived here with little to no incident because the house required sacrifices, and he was more than willing to perform them. He turns the light on to reveal bodies on the wall that were mutilated, but some were still alive. He walks over to one and says, "Are you hungry, Fred?" Then feeds the mutilated man what looked to be applesauce from a tray, then put a straw to his lips and let him sip water, and continued taking care of the rest, as Jeff looked terrified of what he's seen. Papa tells Jeff that he'll join the others on the wall soon, and his eventual plan is to have enough bodies to cover the entire wall. But for now, he'll have to leave Jeff, and in the meantime, he can get acquainted with his new family. Papa then turns to leave. Jeff, still shackled in the room, hears voices from the wall moan, "Kill me." Others join in, and eventually the chant goes from "kill me" to "kill us," as Jeff covers his ears and shrinks into a ball in terror. Outside the house, Ron sees most of the family leave in a beat-up station wagon. He sneaks inside the house to see Cassandra. She unfortunately mentions to him that Bones said he had to leave her with his family for an hour, and Ron takes this as a sign that she's vulnerable and her body is his for the next hour. He slams her head against the table and goes to claim her body, but Bones comes back and he's wielding a hammer. He tells Ron that Cass belongs to him, just like the tramp stamp on her back reads. Bones then locks down Ron and tortures him by writing Piggy on his face with the soldering gun. He explains he forgot to turn off the soldering gun, that's why he ran back. He told the others to go on without him, because they were already running late for church. He plans on making Ron pay for touching his property, and when he looks back where Cass was restrained by the vices, she was gone. She then attacks him with a wrench and bashes Bones' head in. She leaves Ron trapped and gives him the finger and tells him to go fuck himself on the way out. Back to Jeff, he manages to talk to a girl named Colleen. Colleen Cassidy is her name. She tells him that Papa said 64 days is the longest anyone's ever survived on the wall, and she's been there for 60 days so far. She says she'll die if Jeff doesn't help her. Cass, on the other hand, was trying to make a run for it, but decides to help her friends first, so they can all escape together. She finds her boyfriend Todd first, or what's left of him, at least, because she finds him skinned alive. Then we see Lulu Bell find Ron. She sees Bones' corpse and asks what happened to her brother. Ron convinces Lulu that Bones is actually still alive, but says that he'll die soon if she doesn't let Ron go so he can save Bones' life. Lulu reluctantly releases Ron, who then takes a wrench and caves the little girl's head in, killing her. He then goes on the hunt to find Cass and picks up a machete along the way. In the kitchen now, Liz is cooking a cannibalistic meal out of Todd as Terry looks for an opportunity to grab a knife and use it. Liz at first seems to enjoy Terry's company and may let her live as her friend, but later admits that if the opportunity comes and they need more human meat, Terry's going to have to fulfill that role. She does promise that she'll prepare her well and says she bets Terry's ass will taste heavenly. Ron manages to find Jeff, but has to abandon him in an attempt to find a key to Jeff's shackle. Cass then sees Liz and Terry in the kitchen preparing the table for the family dinner when the family gets back from church. Liz mentions getting Terry better clothing because how she is currently dressed will make Pinhead want another piece of her. Terry drops the plate she was holding as she remembers how Pinhead had raped her earlier in the story. Cass tries to get her attention here but fails and sneaks into the kitchen to grab the knife. Terry then uses a broken shard of the plate to threaten Liz and pins her down while holding the shard to her throat. She then looks over to see Cass, and as she's distracted, Liz punches her, causing Terry to fall off her, freeing Liz. Cass takes the knife and makes Liz backpedal until Terry grabs her. They all hear movement from the doorway, and Cass sees Ron and decides Terry has Liz under control now, so she runs after Ron. It's now revealed that John and Sarah from the last story had seen a church from the highway. John takes this as a sign, finding himself drawn to the place, and ends up driving towards it. They go inside and find it filled with men and women who all have different deformities. The service itself is ending now, and Sarah and John meet the family of cannibals and are invited to join the family for dinner. John and Sarah return to the house. Cass is captured by Pinhead and is disarmed by Papa, who takes the knife away. Liz attempts to escape from Terry, and now Terry and Cass are at the mercy of their captors again. This is where John enters behind the family and says he smells something really good. He asks the family if they're ready to eat. They gather around the table, and Sarah has the duct tape removed from her wrist, finally. and she sees that the other girls are being forced to sit through this, like her, against their will. Before they start eating, Pinhead goes to Lulu Bell and Bones and finds them both dead. John finds out that human flesh is on the menu as well. John isn't fazed by this and digs in anyway, thinking this is all part of God's plan. Pinhead runs out, trying to explain that he just found Lulu and Bones' corpses in Bones' workshop. The girls decide to make a break for it, and Cass grabs Liz, and Terry stabs Liz's eye with a kitchen knife and makes her flop on the floor next to Pinhead, who is rocking back and forth, still disturbed from witnessing his family's corpses. John stands up, but Sarah grabs her own knife and stabs John's thigh, causing him to scream out in pain and fall to the ground. Cass, Sarah, and Terry all three grab the remaining knives and nod to each other, then make a run for it. Mama blocks the main door with her ginormous body so they can't escape, and Papa comes out holding an axe. John took the knife out of his thigh from where he had been stabbed, and now wields it too. He says that he'll take care of Sarah himself, and Pinhead grabs him by the throat, but Papa tells him to put him down and agrees that the other two are his property, but Sarah is John's. Then Papa goes to the room Jeff is locked inside and unlocks his shackles and puts a knife to his throat and explains that he's now the family's insurance policy. Cass decides to split up with the other girls, and they all go in different directions to look for Jeff and hopefully find better weapons than the knives they got. She tries a few doors, but finds most of them locked, and then she ends up in a room that's pitch black. She calls out for Jeff, but then a light switches on, and she sees Ron holding a machete looking for revenge. There's a bed in the middle of the room. Ron points to it with the machete. Cass decides to try to manipulate Ron and says that she'll do whatever he wants if he just gets her out of there, and Ron tells her to prove it and drops his pants. So Cass puts her knife down and crawls to Ron's groin with her mouth wide open, but instead of a blowjob, Ron gets punched in the balls. Cass takes the knife, then orders him to sit on the mattress in the middle of the room and forces him to put it on a straitjacket that was left in this padded room. Once he's got it on, he is beaten senseless by Cass until he goes unconscious. Meanwhile, Sarah is running from John. John is telling her he'll forgive her once she lets him stab her, so they can be even. The two end up in a room that's like a makeshift chapel. John kneels in front of the cross and asks Sarah to marry him. Sarah is taken aback by this and says, "Are you fucking kidding me?" The marriage doesn't work out, so John lunges at her with a knife, but misses. Sarah manages to stab his other leg, but he grabs her by the ankle, sending her to the floor. He drags her to the front of the chapel, as blood trailed down both of his legs while he limped. He stabs Sarah in each of her legs, so they are now equal in his eyes. He says his vows, and is spit on by Sarah in return. He tried to get her to say her vows, but she lunges forward at him, knocking over a brass candle holder and a Bible that was propped up for the ceremony. The candles set fire to the chapel, and as John tries to ensure the Bible isn't burned, Sarah picks up the brass candle holder and cracks him in the side of the head with it, hard. She grabs his knife and says, "Till death do us part," then closes the door on the man who killed her family. Meanwhile, Terry is hiding from Pinhead and goes into a closet and manages to fit in a gap in the wall to try to escape Pinhead. At first this seems to work until Pinhead just starts smashing through the wall, trying to find her. He eventually grabs a hold of her. She waits for him to drag her out, but after a few moments of him just gripping onto her waist, she realizes what his true intentions were. She's now pinned to the floor, and Pinhead leans down and just simply says the word sex. He positions himself to penetrate her. As Pinhead starts thrusting into her, she manages to find and grab onto her knife. She stabs at his hand. He releases her and falls back, more out of shock than in actual pain, and that's when Terry plants the knife in his neck, killing the biggest threat of the family. The girls then meet up as the house starts burning down around them. They try to decide whether to go after Jeff or just escape the house, and they hear a scream and find that Jeff has killed Papa. A knife is sticking out of Papa's right eye, and Jeff now wields an axe and brings it down on Mama, over and over and over again, cutting her into pieces. The girls run up to him and explain they need to leave the house because of the fire, but something seems to have pushed Jeff over the edge, and he says that he needs to help the others, still chained to the wall, in the basement. Jeff then rips the knife from Papa's eye and runs off. Sarah, meanwhile, swiped the keys from John's pocket after their fight in the chapel. Back at the burning building, Ron presumably dies of smoke inhalation as he can't escape the padded room he was trapped in with the straitjacket. Jeff goes to the room where the walls are filled with bodies, and he uses his knife he took from Papa's eye socket to start trying to cut Colleen down. He looks up when Colleen points out the flames were coming from the room above, and embers start to fall and burn him and Colleen both. Colleen says that she had a dream like this, where flames fell from the sky, and she calls the sight before them beautiful. Jeff tried his best to save her, but then Colleen says, "That's okay, Jeff. I didn't survive the dream either." The last thing Jeff and Colleen do is smile at each other. Then the ceiling caves in, killing them both. We also get an epilogue about the second protagonist. Kendra's epilogue. Kendra is in cuffs, talking to a detective that asks for her full name, but she claims that she can't remember her last name due to being drugged and almost stabbed to death by Jamie. A TV on a rolling cart is brought in for her to watch, and she is shown footage from the gas station Jamie robbed. Kendra then watches as she murdered the older man and the store clerk, then realizes she's about to empty the magazine into the car seat containing the baby, and she looks away. As she does this, she catches a glimpse of her own face, and she screams, "What did you do to my face?" A doctor then reveals that this woman, who went by Kendra up until now, was actually named Jennifer. Jennifer Hayden, to be exact. Kendra and Jamie were the names of high school students that Miss Hayden knew. They were cheerleader types that barely remembered her when the police questioned them. Something even stranger was that Jennifer Hayden was a former police officer. Jennifer worked the Pleasant Ridge Street Massacre case from the first book. She was pregnant during this time and unfortunately lost her baby. The police department gave her time off, but when she returned, she was not the same. Then one day, some evidence she signed out of the evidence locker went missing, and she was let go. The evidence in question was the Bay River slasher's bag that he used to carry his knives in, which explains how Jamie and Kendra, or Jennifer, acquired it up until this point. As the detectives talk with the doctor, Jennifer imagines seeing Kendra and Jamie, who taunt her. Then a scream is heard, and when the staff rush back, they find Jennifer dead. Her handcuffs were broken and there's surgical equipment on the floor. Jennifer's stomach was cut open, her breasts were cut into, and parts of her cheeks were sliced off. She has slashes all over her body. Her nose was also completely cut off. All of this was self-inflicted. The book ends by saying, right above her, on the wall, was written in blood, "The Janus girls were here." And that was Maniacs with Knives 2. While I enjoyed the first book more, this one still had plenty of insane moments, brutal kills, and some genuinely disturbing scenes. I kinda wish we got an update on some of the other characters like Sarah and the other survivors at the end, rather than just ending with the twist of Jamie and Kendra being the same person. And then we also saw the death of Jeff and Colleen. But overall, Maniacs with Knives 2 is a ridiculous, violent, and completely over-the-top Splatterpunk sequel. If you enjoyed the first book and want even more of that depravity, you're probably going to find something to enjoy here. I'd recommend picking up your own copy if you enjoyed the first and just want to read more from this author. If you made it this far, I just wanted to say thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Also, please feel free to leave your own suggestions for what other Splatterpunk books I should try to check out next for a video.